now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Of course, we begin here at home, as the Academic Staff Union of Universities has declared a 2-week total and comprehensive warning strike across all public universities in Nigeria on Sunday. The announcement was made by the national president of the union, Professor Chris Piuna, at a press briefing at the University of Abuja. The latest standoff between the university lecturers and the federal government is despite ongoing negotiations aimed at averting another round of industrial action in the nation's tertiary institutions. On Wednesday, the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, said in Abuja that the government had entered the final phase of talks with the union and other unions to resolve lingering disputes over welfare.
It goes without saying that there is nothing sufficient on ground, nothing, I repeat, nothing to stop the implementation of the ASU-NEC resolution to embark on a 2-week warning strike at the expiry of the 14 days notice given on the 28th of September 2025. Consequently, all branches of ASU are hereby directed to withdraw their services with effect from midnight, Monday 13th October 2025. The warning strike shall be total, comprehensive, as we had agreed in NEC. The federal government raised our members' hopes in resolving the lingering issues before we held the August NEC in Sokoto by asking for 3 weeks of grace to sort out things. It was a hard sell, but the leadership managed to convince NEC to exercise a little more patience. The pre-Udus NEC hope was dashed without a blink Friday last week. Government agents have again been pleading for more time since the expiry of the 3-week promised, with nothing concrete for ASU leadership to take to its members. Why will a government that has been talking to the union for more than a year through the negotiating team now resort to an emergency to resolve the issues? Is it not a demonstration of bad faith that the government will rubbish wholesale a draft agreement package between its representatives and those of ASU? Any convention, any treaty that serves the common man, that is worker friendly, they are always willing to disobey or disregard it. So we are asking them to come back through this window to the negotiating table and discuss and resolve these issues with us. If they don't, we are going to meet again after 2 weeks. And when we meet after 2 weeks, we will take an action that will be certainly different from this one. Anybody that has followed the history of this union, they know that we walk like a train. If we leave the station and start the journey, it's difficult to stop us until we get to the next station. And so, while we are ready, the drivers are ready, the train is serviced and ready to take off, we hope that they will not allow us embark on this next leg, which would be total and comprehensive.
Well, in a swift reaction, the federal government on Sunday night threatened to invoke the no work, no pay policy on the Academic Staff Union of Universities. In a statement issued by Folashade Boriowo, the spokesperson of the Federal Ministry of Education, the ministry accused ASU of not being cooperative. This is despite efforts by the government to avert the strike that was declared by the union. They, however, emphasized that the no work, no pay policy remains an extant labor law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the government will be guided by this law should academic activities be disrupted in the nation's universities. The statement reassured Nigerian students, parents, and the general public that the federal government is firmly committed to maintaining industrial harmony in the tertiary education system. Ministers appealed to all academic unions to embrace partnership and dialogue rather than confrontation in the collective interest of the nation's higher education system. Well, let's now turn our attention to power issues as investments by international donor agencies for electricity transmission projects in Nigeria have risen to $1.296 billion over the past 5 years, resulting in an additional 5,910 megavolt ampere, that's MVA, of transformer capacity to the national grid. This is according to a This Day reveal. The funds being managed by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, includes the $486 million from the World Bank, framed as the Nigeria Electricity Transmission Project, NETAP, the $400 million from the French Development Agency, which was for the Abuja Feeding Scheme and the Northern Corridor Project, and the $210 million from the African Development Bank in support of the Nigeria Transmission Expansion Project. A TCN document seen by This Day, which detailed the funds and their specific projects, also included the $200 million from the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, which is financing the Lagos-Ogun Power Transmission Project. For decades, Nigeria's power sector has been grappling with a plethora of challenges, inhibiting it from expanding supply to millions of Nigerians and leading to frequent collapse. Now, we conclude with the management of Arise News Channel, who said that it would be better consoled over the death of our reporter, Somtochukwu Maduagwu, if the country's security and healthcare systems were improved. Deputy Managing Director of Arise News Channel, Bayo Awoshemo, stated this yesterday in Abuja at a night of tributes organized by the management for Sommie, as the deceased was fondly called. Some of the dignitaries in attendance were the chairman and editor-in-chief of This Day Arise Media Group, Prince Nduka Obaigbena, Senator Victor Ome, Senator Adams Oshiomhole, and the First Lady of Enugu State, Chinyere Mba, among others. Awoshemo lamented that Sommie's life was cut short in a very tragic occurrence. Our correspondent Ihotu Odo captures some of the glowing tributes paid at the event.
Sommie, as she was fondly called, was more than just a friend to many. She was a shining light who impacted lives with her kindness, compassion, and generosity that inspired many. So, at this night of tribute, friends, family, colleagues and bosses unanimously say, Sommie may be gone, but her legacy will live on through the countless lives she touched.
Her deliveries were painstaking, sonorous, soft, touchy, overwhelming. I surely would miss the sweet life she embodied, not without stamping her feet on the sands of time. I would say good night, Sommie, until we meet again. Good night.
But I saw that there was a passion for women and children other than just being a lawyer. And then, of course, I asked her, you had been a beauty queen and all of that. What exactly led you to that? And she said she had wanted to create some change. And that's why she felt that coming into journalism was one of the fastest ways to actually create that vehicle of bringing change.
Her greatness wasn't finished. So let Sommie's light continue to shine in our hearts, and let us take that to focus on the things she loved.
With a heart full of gratitude, even as we navigate this profound grief, to the Maduagwu family, Sommie's parents, siblings, and extended family, we thank you for sharing your beloved daughter, sister, and kingswoman with us.
Like a candle in the wind, Sommie's death once again shows the fragility of life. But many take solace and comfort in the life of the impact she lived. Ihotu Odo, Arise News.
All right, well, may Sommie continue to rest in peace. It was quite a solemn outing yesterday as we got our opportunity to pay our last respects as she begins her journey home. You know, that and a number of other stories as well in the news. Impending ASU strike, or rather not impending, should be kicking off this morning.
Started already.
Huge investment to the transmission side of our power sector. All of those together.
Okay, Vimbai. So, I have a couple of friends that went to school in this country between 1967 to 1970. And sometimes when we talk, obviously a lot older, and sometimes when we talk, they tell me some interesting stories that make me sure that I'm still in Nigeria. So they told me this very interesting one. And in fact, this was corroborated by a professor. He went ahead to become a professor in Harvard, one of the brightest brains in English in this country, professor of English. And he told me how they caused the strike because they had removed ice cream from the menu of the university students. You would have thought that something as petty as ice cream, when you juxtapose today with yesteryears, will cause a strike. But that was the kind of quality they got back then. So today, students don't even dare ask for food from the university when ASU cannot get their pay. Remember, since ASU was set up in 1978, we've had over 5,000 days of strike. If you were to put that in years, about 14 to 15 years of strike. And these are caused because the government does not show good faith as regards education. And that's why we have the problem. I mean, what are we even talking about? We're talking about 2009 agreements. What year are we? 2025. An agreement made many years ago, the government cannot honor them. And you see, I do not like the narrative of the government. As long as there are strikes, you have not done enough. Because I see the education minister trying to say, hey, we've done enough. We paid 50 billion out of 103 billion. You paid 50 billion out of 103 billion when ASU said they were going to waive off 50% of the monies you owed them. You promised a salary increase, a 25% salary increase, and you've not paid that. Then you have arrears that you've not paid. You've not still paid them for the months where they went on strike. And now you're threatening them and saying no work, no pay. And you see, the question we should ask this government is, what do we want for the furtherance of education in this country? With the billions invested in education, we are not still where we ought to be. The same Nigerian universities in the 1960s and 1970s that students could protest for ice cream is now the same university system where university lecturers are screaming for their pay. And that's the contrast of Nigeria.
As of course, we now know that ASU has commenced on their 2-week strike. This is up against the threat from government that they will activate the no work, no pay clause. That is part of Section 43(1), subsection A of the Trade Disputes Act. Now, we've gone through the history of this back and forth several times. What are the latest developments? The latest developments are that ASU are saying that this particular administration, like past administrations, is not negotiating in good faith. The administration, by virtue of the Minister of Education, is saying that that is not true, that they have extended some olive branches and that they are making attempts to try and ease the situation, that not all things can be done in the current budget, that some other things will have to be budgeted for future cycles. However, for me, I think I toe the line of the National Association of Nigerian Students, which is that the concerns and the issues being raised by the staff, by ASU, are legitimate. However, the continuous, perennial, endless disruption to our education cycle is no longer sustainable. So we need to start looking for a way where dispute resolution stops affecting and impacting negatively those who have nothing to do with it, those who are most vulnerable and who need the services most. We saw what happened with Pengasen. We saw how disruptive that was to the economy, not just to the big people in their offices in the oil and gas sector, but down to people who were buying gas in the market. Now we're seeing how this is being disruptive to the youngest and the brightest. We keep speaking of people like Sommie, who we are losing, our youngest and our brightest. Look at how much we are shortchanging them by taking away their opportunity to be in the classroom. Yes, the professors, the lecturers, all of the academic staff, they also deserve to be treated in a dignified and respectable way. However, I think it's time for us to have a deeper conversation about our dispute resolution mechanisms, about how we are able to approach this collective action when the need comes in a way that doesn't further harm and hurt the most vulnerable in our society. Because unfortunately, the 1% who are sitting comfortably at the top are not those who are impacted the most by these disputes when they play out. You know, the cliche says it's the grass that suffers, and that's truly what's happening in this case. So I do hope that alternate dispute measures can be pursued. Now, of course, as we round up news from TCN saying that over $1 billion in investment, and of course, anybody who hears that news will wonder, when will we start feeling that investment in our homes, translating into stable electricity? And again, it highlights the discrepancy between our transmission, our generation, and our distribution, and how all of these different sectors need to move at the same pace. They need to hold each other hand in hand and work cohesively for us to actually be able to get from a place where investment is coming and we are getting the electricity in our homes.